My name is Mia, and my story begins when I was 17. During my senior year of high school, I was not the daughter my parents envisioned. They had mapped out my life since I was little. Excel in school. Go to college. Secure a stable office job. Marry a nice man and live, according to their perfect plan. That was their dream for me, but it wasn't mine. I wasn't a straight-A student, but I wasn't lacking intelligence either. I had a creative mind and preferred working with my hands, fixing things, crafting and decorating spaces over, sitting in class, listening to lectures that never interested me. When I told my parents I wanted to study interior design, my mother was furious. "It's a terrible choice," she said. "What can you do with a job that doesn't require a degree?" She repeated this whenever I brought it up, insisting that college was the only path to success. "Why can't you be like the other kids in the neighborhood? Go to college, get a stable job. That kind of work will only lead to failure." My father, who worked tirelessly at a factory, felt the same. He believed college was the only way to succeed, and I couldn't understand why he couldn't see that I wasn't happy following his plan. I couldn't keep living in a place where every step I took was controlled by their expectations. In April, about 6 weeks before graduation, I decided to tell them I'd been accepted into a short-term interior design course. It wasn't a university, but it was a path I truly wanted, and I had earned a partial scholarship based on projects I'd completed. When I shared the news, my mother's face changed. She cried not out of concern, but out of disappointment. My father couldn't hold back his anger. "Do you know what an opportunity you're throwing away?" he shouted. "You're embarrassing us." I tried to explain that I wanted to pursue my passion, but my words only made them angrier. Hurtful words flew back and forth, and no one was willing to back down. Finally, my father, his face full of rage, said, "If you don't want to do things our way, then leave. Don't ever come back." I stood there feeling everything shatter. Part of me wanted to retreat, but another part was too exhausted from their control. I didn't want to live in their shadow anymore. I went upstairs, shoved essentials into a bag, grabbed the $1,500 I had saved from part-time jobs, and headed downstairs. My mother looked at me, tears in her eyes. "You'll come back, right? You'll be back in a month, begging us to take you in." She smirked as if I'd already lost. My father stood by the door, saying nothing, just glaring at me, before slamming it shut as I walked out. I stood in the front yard of the house I grew up in, staring at the place that no longer felt like home. The rain started to pour like a sign of what was to come. I felt like a character in a depressing movie, but I knew one thing: I wasn't going back. After leaving, I felt like I was standing in the middle of a long road, not knowing where to go. On the outside, I tried to appear strong, but inside loneliness crept in. For the first time, I felt the reality of losing everything. No parents, no home, no safety net. I called Ethan the only friend I could rely on, and thankfully he let me stay at his place for a few days. Though it was temporary, it gave me a place to escape the chaos inside me. Those first days at Ethan's, I couldn't shake the feeling of being an outsider, a burden in my friend's home. But Ethan never judged me. He kept saying I'd figure things out as long as I stayed determined. He helped me apply for emergency assistance as I was still a minor without family support, making me eligible for aid. Still living on my own wasn't easy. I started working 2 jobs to make ends meet, one at a hardware store in the afternoons, and another washing dishes at a diner on weekends. The long days wore me out both physically and mentally. Every night when I returned to the tiny rented room, I could barely afford. I felt like I was living a life no one understood. Many times I wanted to give up, go back home, apologize and pretend to be the daughter they wanted. But then I'd remember my mother's words. "You'll come crawling back in a month." Those words stung like a slap to the face. I wouldn't go back. Not because I was stubborn, but because I couldn't live under their control any longer. As time went by, my life gradually stabilized. I earned enough to support myself, buying my own food, and paying rent without relying on anyone. I learned how to manage my money, cook for myself, and do things I never thought I could. Life wasn't easy, but I was moving forward. One day, while working at the hardware store, my phone rang. It was my mother. I swallowed hard, unsure of what she wanted. I didn't want to answer, but I couldn't ignore it. "Mia, are you okay?" Her voice was soft, lacking the anger and scorn it once had. "I'm fine," I replied curtly. Feeling a wave of discomfort, she sighed. "Your father lost his job. We don't know what to do. Can you help us out a little?" I didn't know how to respond. A hollow emptiness filled my chest. After everything they'd done to me, now they wanted my help. Part of me felt the urge to assist, as they were still my parents, but another part was filled with resentment. They hadn't thought about me in so long, hadn't cared about my life. They only remembered me when they needed something. "I can't help you, Mom. I'm taking care of myself now," I said firmly. She was silent for a moment, then said, "I understand, honey. I just want you to know that we still love you." A surge of anger and disappointment rose inside me. I had fought so hard working 2 jobs just to stand on my own while they lived, comfortably under the roof. They had chosen. "I'll call you back," I said, then ended the call. Those first months were the hardest of my life. I felt like I was walking down a dark, foggy road with no family support and no one to share my struggles. Everything weighed on my shoulders. Each morning I woke up exhausted, but I couldn't stop. If I stopped, I wouldn't know where to go next. While others my age were going to the movies or hanging out with friends, I was alone in my tiny rented room, drowning in design course materials, dreaming of a future I still believed was possible. The worst part wasn't the hard work. It was the loneliness, the absence of family conversations. Sometimes when I saw pictures of my friends' families, I felt an indescribable emptiness. I missed the family dinners, the meaningless arguments, my mother's constant scolding, and my father's disappointed looks. But I couldn't go back. No matter how much I loved them, I couldn't return to the cycle of control and expectations they had created. Life felt like a never-ending battle. But whenever I thought about my mother's words, I pushed away the negative thoughts. I wouldn't let them be. Right. I would prove I could live well without their help. On tired mornings when sunlight peeked through the window of my rented room, I remembered my dreams of becoming an interior designer, working in a creative environment where I could express my skills. Every step, no matter how small, was a step forward. Day by day, I focused on my work, my training, and the things I could control. The sleepless nights spent completing assignments and the exhausting days searching for clients for small design projects became integral to my life. One afternoon, while taking an order from a client at a coffee shop, my phone vibrated. It was a message from my mother. "Are you okay? I miss you." For the first time in months, I felt something inside me soften, but I didn't reply right away. I knew I had to stay strong if I answered. I feared I'd give in and return to everything I'd rejected. I stared at the screen for a while, then typed a short message. "I'm fine, Mum. I'm working and learning. I'll be okay." I hit send and set the phone down. I knew that one day I would go back, but not to apologize, only to stand firmly on my own 2 feet. My perseverance began to pay off. After months of exhaustion and loneliness, I started to see progress. I vividly remember the sleepless nights when my eyes burned from working at the hardware store and the coffee shop. But I couldn't afford to stop. Step by step, I realized I'd made it through the toughest days. It was time to look for a real opportunity. One day, while working at the hardware store, I ran into Lucas, a man who had helped me find materials for a small project months earlier. Back then, he was just a regular customer, but now he would change my life. He asked if I was interested in working on home repair and renovation projects. It was an unbelievable opportunity. Lucas was a skilled tradesman with years of experience in construction and repair. He wasn't just a great mentor, but also a friend who shared his knowledge and recognized my potential in design and decor. He gave me the chance to work on substantial projects. The first few days working with Lucas were a turning point. I learned new skills and practiced them on real projects. Gradually, I became more confident. I was no longer the confused, frightened young woman facing every challenge with uncertainty. Clients started complimenting my work, and for the first time I felt valued. Something I hadn't felt in years. Under Lucas's guidance, I improved my design skills, learned to manage projects, and communicated effectively with clients. Slowly but surely, I began securing my own design contracts, and my life stabilized. I no longer had to worry about temporary jobs to make ends meet. I felt confident in the path I had chosen, without needing my family's support. A year later, after completing my training program and receiving my certification, my life was completely different. I had a steady job, a small but cozy apartment, and I no longer felt lonely. The new friends I met through work became like family. Not just colleagues, but people who had been there during my hardest times. I'll never forget the moment I looked around my apartment for the first time, a space I had furnished and decorated entirely with the money I earned doing the work I loved. It was a feeling words couldn't describe. I had built this life on my own without my parents' help. Without living under their expectations, I felt free in control and ready to decide my own future. One day, as I was working at home, my phone rang. It was my mother. I wasn't sure what to expect. After a few seconds of hesitation, I picked up Mia. "Are you okay?" Her voice was softer than before. "I'm fine, Mom. I'm working and doing well," I answered with confidence. Her voice was slightly hesitant. "We just want to know what you're doing, and if there's anything we can do to help." I sensed a change in her tone. No scolding, no disappointment, but I knew they still couldn't fully understand my choices. I told her I had found the work I loved, and no longer needed their help. It was time for me to keep moving forward on my own. After hanging up, I reflected on the call. Maybe my parents didn't truly understand me, but it no longer mattered. What mattered was that I had found my passion, my work, and the life I always wanted. Then one morning, as I prepared breakfast in my apartment, my phone rang again. It was my mother. My heart tightened. After all this time, she hadn't genuinely asked how I was doing. She only reached out when she needed something I decided to pick up. "How are you?" "Mia." Her voice was soft but distant, as if nothing had happened between us. "I'm fine," I replied curtly, keeping my voice calm. There was a brief silence. "You know your father still doesn't have a job, and we're struggling. Can you help us a little?" A bitter feeling rose in my chest. After all these years, they had never checked on me, never cared about my life, and now they called with a sorrowful tone when they needed money. "I'm doing okay, but I can't help you financially. I'm taking care of myself now," I said, trying to stay patient. She didn't give up. "I understand, honey, but you know, we're family. Family is supposed to help each other. I always hoped you'd come back, but if you can't, at least help a little." Those words felt like a slap in the face. Why did I have to carry the burden of saving the family when they had never been there for me? I hung up without another word, feeling furious. The next day, while scrolling through social media, I saw a post from my mother. "Family is everything. No matter what, we must stick together through hard times. My daughter Mia has become independent, but the family still needs her. We miss her so much and hope she understands and helps us during this difficult time." Reading those words felt like being cornered. The way she used social media to pressure me made me feel exploited. She knew I'd see the post and hoped I'd feel guilty enough to help, but I was tired of these games. I couldn't let myself be pulled back into manipulation. The next day, my mother called again. I didn't pick up. Instead, I typed a brief message. Mom, I know you need help, but I can't come back. I can't keep living the life you chose for me. I'm independent now and need to keep moving forward. After hitting send, I felt an unexpected sense of relief. I no longer felt pressured to live up to their expectations. Soon calls came from my siblings and other family members asking about my mother's post and trying to convince me to help. My brother texted that Mom had cried because of her post and begged me to return, but I wasn't swayed. I had come too far to start over. I had built my life from nothing, and I couldn't let guilt or old expectations pull me back. I decided not to respond anymore. My life was no longer tied to what they wanted me to be. A month after deciding not to return, my life stabilized. I landed a good job at a major interior design firm, and I could support myself without worrying about money. I had my own apartment, good friends, and a job I loved. Finally, I was on the path. I wanted unshaped by anyone else's expectations. Then one day, my mother called again. Her tone was different. No blame, no request for financial help. Just a somber, concerned voice. Mia, we need to talk, she said. Her voice slightly choked. Your father and I have thought a lot about what happened. We know we were wrong in how we treated you. We don't want you to feel pushed away from the family anymore. Can you meet with us just once? I didn't respond immediately. My emotions were all over the place. After all these years, they had finally acknowledged their mistakes. But could I forgive them and open up again? I had learned to stand on my own, and I didn't want anyone controlling my life. I took a deep breath and replied, Okay, Mum, but only if you and Dad agree to one condition. I won't help if you don't respect my boundaries. I can't go back to living like we did before. There was a brief silence before she said, We will respect that, Mia. We're willing to change. The meeting took place the following weekend at a quiet cafe. My parents sat there looking at me with faces no longer stern, but anxious and uncertain. My mother gently took my hand as I sat down, and my father just looked at me, waiting for me to speak. We know we were wrong, my mother began. We put all our expectations on you and never let you make your own choices. We're truly sorry. Your father and I understand now that you've grown up and don't need us to decide for you anymore. But we're still family, and we want to start over. I looked into my mother's eyes. Those words weren't new, but this time I sensed sincerity in her voice. Forgiving wasn't easy, but I knew that if I didn't give them this chance, I'd never move forward. I forgive you, Mum and Dad, I said softly, but firmly. But if we're going to start over, I need you to respect my life and choices. I can't go back to living the way we did before. I'm independent now, and I don't want to be controlled or pressured anymore. My father nodded. We will respect that, Mia. We want you to feel free, and we're ready to change. After that meeting, I decided to help them once paying, to help them keep their house. It was a difficult decision, but I knew it was the only way to assist without feeling overwhelmed by unrealistic expectations. However, I made it clear they had to change. I required them to attend family therapy sessions where we could openly express our feelings without judgment. My parents agreed, and from that point, our family dynamics began to shift. They attended therapy, worked on improving relationships, and learned to respect each other's boundaries. It was a long and challenging process, but small improvements emerged. They no longer tried to control me, and I no longer felt trapped by their expectations. The most important thing was that I hadn't returned to living under their control. I had built a stable, fulfilling life that I chose. I could work in the field I loved, live freely, and do what I wanted without fear of judgment. Even though my family had changed, I remained committed to living on my terms, no longer allowing anyone to decide for me. Our relationship couldn't return to how it was, but I had built a life I was proud of. Each day I felt stronger, not just because I had survived the tough times, But because I had dared to live authentically, I have built a stable, independent, and fulfilling life. While my relationship with my family has seen some improvements, I still maintain the boundaries I set. I've learned to stand on my own 2 feet and not let anyone, even my family, dictate my life. Through this journey, I've realized that perseverance and living true to oneself are the keys to building a meaningful and free life.